Hi there, this is Datila, and welcome to the Wrestling Time Post Show. It is Friday, February 24th, 2023, which means that tonight I will be reviewing both Friday Night Smackdown and AEW Rampage. Now, normally when I do this review, I like to start off with AEW Rampage and then Smackdown, so let's start with Rampage. So Rampage kicked off with a tag team match. It was a Young Bucks versus Aussie Open. And this was a great way to kick off tonight's Rampage. I mean, this match was incredible. Now, commentary alluded to the fact that the Young Bucks really haven't had any tag team matches as of late. They've been completing mostly in trios matches. That the last time they did have a tag match, they actually lost to Top Flight. And that was an incredible match in itself. It's actually nice to see Aussie Open again. I know it's been a while since we've seen them. But wow, this match was incredible. I mean, I really like the fact that Aussie Open sent the Bucks into each other. You had Nick Jackson doing a diving crossbody to both members of Aussie Open. You have Nick Jackson doing a hurricanrana to Fletcher. You have Matt Jackson doing an elbow to Kyle Fletcher. You then have Nick Jackson not only doing a senton to Kyle Fletcher, but he does a facebuster to Mark Davis. And then Kyle Fletcher turns around and hits Nick Jackson with the brainbuster on the floor. Now, how incredible is that? So, both members of Aussie Open accidentally collide with the forearm smash. I really like how each member of Aussie Open do lariats to the Young Bucks, and then all four men ended up going down. Now, the lights ended up going out during this match, which was House of Black playing mind games with the Bucks. Kyle Fletcher doing a tombstone pile driver to Matt Jackson. In the end, the Bucks were successful after they hit the BTE trigger to Kyle Fletcher. So the lights go out again and House of Black appear at ringside. And the lights go out and House of Black disappears. So we are going to get the House of Black versus the Elite for those trios titles at Revolution. And honestly, I cannot wait. I think House of Black should take the titles off the Elite. I feel like could take the titles off the Elite. If not House of Black, then who? If not House of Black, then who? We get a best friend segment. And before they can even say anything, they're attacked by the firm in the form of Big Bill, Lee Moriarty. And it's so funny because afterwards, Danhausen and Orange Cassidy show up. And the referee confirms that it was against Big Bill and Lee Moriarty who attacked the best friends. So we find out we're going to get Orange Cassidy versus Big Bill for that All-Atlantic title. Okay, next we get Toni Storm versus Willow Nightingale, which actually was not a bad match. I enjoyed it. Toni Storm being more of a heel. She was pulling Willow's hair. Corsa Rhea caused a distraction here. I really like the cannonball, which Willow Nightingale followed up with the Death Valley driver to Toni Storm. But in the end, Toni Storm was victorious after she hit the Storm Zero to Willow. And afterwards, Ruby Soho came out to save Willow and prevented her from being spray painted. Then Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker charged the ring. Britt went after Toni Storm, and Jamie Hayter was chasing Saraya. And then so Ruby Soho helped Willow to her feet. Again, where's Hikaru Shida? I pointed this on my AEW Dynamite review. Where is Hikaru Shida? She was involved in this feud and totally disappeared. We get Lance Archer versus Bryce Saturn. This was just a squash match. This was Lance Archer's big welcome back. I don't know where he's been, but yeah, this is a squash match. There's nothing more to say about that. Our main event was Action Andretti versus Sammy Guevara. Before that, you guys know that, of course, there's a main event promo. And Daniel Garcia's talking about how he's going to make sure people start respecting Sammy Guevara. He says that, Sammy Guevara has a beautiful wife. Action Andretti vows that he will prove that tonight he's more than just a guy who won a fluke upset over Chris Jericho. And so then, again, this leads into the main event. This is actually a really good main event. I actually really enjoyed Action Andretti versus Sammy Guevara. Of course, Daniel Garcia accompanied Sammy Guevara to the ring. We got one of my favorite spots in this match was when Action Andretti did the 450 splash off the ring apron to Sammy Guevara. I really like the back and forth strikes that both men did. Then springboard senton to Sammy Guevara was good. Of course, Daniel Garcia caused a distraction here. And when the ref was busy dealing with Sammy Guevara, Daniel Garcia hit on action Andretti with the lariat. And so this allowed Sammy Guevara to hit the GTH to action Andretti. And so Sammy Guevara was victorious. Chris Jericho then came out and he celebrated with Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara. And Rampage went off the air. Overall, I thought it was a decent Rampage. It's just your run-of-the-mill Rampage. I really like the opening match. I like the ending match. The squash match didn't do anything for me. Toni Storm with Willow Nightingale was okay. I would say I'd give this a 7 out of 10. Alright, well, with that being said, that concludes the Rampage review. Now let's talk about everyone's favorite Friday night show, Friday Night Smackdown, which kicked off with Jimmy Uso arriving backstage. He said that he hasn't spoken to his brother Jay. He texted him, called him, left him a voicemail, and told him to meet him in the ring tonight. It was Braun Strowman, Ricochet, and Madcap versus Imperium. This was actually not a bad match. That was a decent match, so to speak. Drew McIntyre came out in the middle of this match, and he was kind of standing on the ramp. It was no surprise that Imperium won after Gunter hit a release German suplex, which he followed up with a clothesline, and then a powerbomb to poor Madcap Moss. The Viking Raiders attack Drew McIntyre. Sheamus comes out. Strowman and Ricochet take out the Viking Raiders, and then Sheamus and Drew McIntyre attack the Viking Raiders. So I feel bad for the Viking Raiders. I really hope that once the tag titles get split, that they do become champions, because they've had so much momentum, but it's like they stop and start their push. You know what I mean? If you look at the Viking Raiders a couple months ago versus where they are now, they were incredible a few months ago. And now they're getting attacked by Sheamus and Drew. I don't know how I feel about that. Especially because Sheamus and Drew, I mean, they kind of just came together as a tag team, while the Viking Raiders are a legit tag team. I honestly think the Viking Raiders should become, if not the first tag team champions after the title split, but maybe the second team. But they certainly deserve a tag team run. It's been a while since they've held the titles, and I just feel like their push starts, then it stops, and then it halts, because right now they're stalling for those tag titles. The Usos are not going to lose until WrestleMania, and we just got to get those belts off the Usos so that more teams have opportunities to become tag team champions. We get a Rey Mysterio backstage segment when he says he will make sure to put an end to Karrion Kross tonight. Then Santos Escobar shows up, and Santos says that he values respect and that he had the honor of receiving a mask from Rey Mysterio. Then Dominic shows up with Rhea, or his mommy as he calls her, and Santos says he will teach Dom some respect for his dad. Rhea kind of blows a kiss to Santos Escobar, and Rey says that how can it not bug him when that's his son. I thought this was going to play out a lot differently. Like, I thought Santos Escobar being the heel was going to have a feud with Rey Mysterio, kind of similar how to Andrade had a feud with Rey Mysterio. But we haven't gotten that yet. And it seems like they turned Santos Escobar face. And I think Santos Escobar makes a better heel than face. That's just my opinion. We get the first Bloodline segment of the night. And it's Jimmy and Solo Sikoa sitting in the Bloodline locker room with Paul Heyman. And Jimmy says that since the Royal Rumble, things have been going crazy. He thinks that Jay got spooked about this whole Sammy thing. And Paul Heyman suggests Solo stay back and let Jimmy handle Jay personally. Uso to Uso, twin to twin. Afterwards, we get an LA Knight promo. Yeah. And he talks about how everyone's talking about WrestleMania. He says he didn't come here for a moment. He came here to make money and win titles. You can't have a WrestleMania in LA without LA Knight. He says he's going to give WrestleMania an LA Knight moment. And then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, the New Day interrupts him. And Kofi asks who the hell LA Knight is demanding anything right now. And LA Knight says he doesn't recall inviting the Nerd Day. He calls himself a megastar. And he says, Xavier Woods says that being nerds made them a lot of money. And LA Knight must love handouts. And he says they go on to say WrestleMania moments aren't handed out, they're earned. And they make mention of Kofi Kingston's WrestleMania moment, Kofi Mania. So LA Knight goes on to say he doesn't care about their path. He's a creator of circumstance, and then asks Kofi Kingston how Kofi Mania worked out for him. Kofi says he didn't wait for a WrestleMania moment, and This segment ends up leading into a match. It leads into LA Knight versus Kofi Kingston. So first of all, I was a little confused as to why the New Day interrupted LA Knight. And I feel like right now we have like 5 weeks to WrestleMania, and it seems like LA Knight is directionless right now, which is sad because he deserves to be in WrestleMania. But yeah, LA Knight versus Kofi Kingston, which I actually did not think was a bad match. And I actually really like the fact that LA Knight tried to get Xavier Woods to attack him so he can cause a DQ. Now, my issue with this is that Xavier Woods causes a distraction, and Kofi Kingston hits a Trouble in Paradise to LA Knight, so he's victorious. In my personal opinion, Kofi Kingston did not need this victory. I felt like LA Knight needed it more. And you have Xavier Woods causing a distraction. So what, are the New Day slowly turning heels or something? Because why would Xavier Woods need to cause a distraction in order for Kofi Kingston to beat LA Knight? It doesn't make sense to me. But I did not like the outcome of this match. I didn't. You can make the arguments that Kofi got the victory, but it wasn't a clean finish. So maybe this might lead to something else. I really hope it's not LA Knight versus Kofi Kingston at WrestleMania. We get Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley face to face, or at least we're supposed to get them face to face. But what ends up happening is actually Dominic comes out. Like, Charlotte Flair had said that she couldn't wait to have Rhea Ripley face to face, and she called her out. And she says that Rhea wasn't coming, and she could smell the hesitation, and asked if Rhea Ripley was scared after remembering the last time they were in the ring together. And yet Dominic was the one that came out. And he says he isn't going to let Charlotte run down his mommy. And Charlotte tells Dominic to go and get Rhea and tell her face to face like a real woman instead of hiding behind a boy toy. Dominic says that Charlotte sounds jealous and bitter because she knows Rhea Ripley is the hottest thing in WWE right now, and that no other woman has entered the Royal Rumble at #1 and won it all. Charlotte just smiles, and Dominic says she's beautiful. She should smile more. And he goes on to say about how Rhea is dominant and strong. So strong, she almost breaks his back when she hugs him. Okay, that made me laugh. And before he could even say anything else, Charlotte Flair interrupts and says that she has a real Latino man at home who calls her mommy. Of course, she's referring to her husband, Andrade El Idolo. And she goes on to say his accent is much thicker. Of course it is, like, because he was born in Mexico and Spanish is his first language, which is why his accent is a lot thicker. Now, Dominic brings up how he and Charlotte are alike. They're both generational superstars, but Dominic shows that his father is much more worse and that it really messed him up. He goes on to say that when Rhea Ripley wins at WrestleMania, Charlotte will know her dad was right, that she's just not good enough. Charlotte fires back and says that unlike Dominic, she loves her dad, and he's 74 tomorrow, so happy early birthday. Charlotte says that her dad can still go, and if he was there, he would kick Dominic's butt, but he's not there. So she steps to Dominic, and as soon as Dominic backs away, music plays and Rhea Ripley comes out. Like, Rhea Ripley just comes straight to the ring and she's laughing at Charlotte. Dominic pulls Rhea away and they exit the ring. Charlotte picks up her title, raises it in the air, and then Rhea Ripley rushes back in there as she gets in Charlotte's face. You can't hear what they say, but they exchange words and they taunt each other as Dominic and Rhea Ripley exit the ring. Well, Charlotte is still holding her title. So I wasn't a huge fan of this segment. I mean, because this was supposed to be a face-to-face between Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley, but we didn't get that. We know if Charlotte and Rhea are going to main event night 1, which I disagree. I feel like the Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Usos should main event because that's a bigger story. This is not making me care about the main eventing night 1. You have to really deliver a good story, and we're not getting that. Like, nothing about Charlotte versus Rhea screams main event of night 1 of WrestleMania. I get it. Rhea Ripley won the Royal Rumble. If you win the Royal Rumble, you main event WrestleMania. But I'm not feeling this as a WrestleMania night 1 main event. We get Natalya versus Shayna Baszler. Natalya was accompanied to the ring by Tegan Nox. I didn't really care for this match. Shayna Baszler won by submission. Why are we still having Shayna Baszler feud with Natalya? She's beaten her. Can we please move on? Tegan Nox and Ronda Rousey had a few words for each other. So next week we're going to get a tag match. It's going to be Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler versus Natalya and Tegan Nox. We get a Firefly House segment. And this is kind of weird. I mean, you have a news report parody and they're talking about who opened the door and that if he told us the story, can we keep it a secret? So I know it seems like they're setting up Bray Wyatt versus Bobby Lashley. I remember when Bray Wyatt came back, there were reports that they had plans for him all the way up to WrestleMania. So this was what the WrestleMania plans were, Bobby Lashley versus Bray Wyatt. He rewatched what Bobby Lashley said on Raw, but aside from that, I didn't get the vibe that this whole Flyer Funhouse was about Bobby Lashley. Was actually a little confused as to how this relates to Bobby Lashley aside from the replay that we got about the Bobby Lashley saying that, name dropping Bray Wyatt on Raw. We get another Bloodline segment. Jimmy says that he knows Jay will be there and that they can hash things out. Paul Heyman approaches and he says that he hopes so because he received a text from Roman. He's going to be there live at SmackDown next week. And he says that if Jimmy doesn't handle Jay tonight, Reigns will personally handle Jay. So I was actually really looking forward to that next week. We get Rey Mysterio versus Karrion Kross. This was an okay match. You had Scarlett causing a distraction to prevent Rey Mysterio from hitting the 619. Dominic came out and he actually caused his dad this match. And Karrion Kross beats Rey Mysterio. So my issue with this is, why did Karrion Kross need help beating Rey Mysterio? Why does he need help? Are you telling me Kross can't beat Rey Mysterio? I mean, I get it. Dominic, they're obviously setting up with Rey versus Dominic. That's why Dominic caused this match. But really? Karrion Kross can't beat Rey Mysterio? So at the end of the match, you had Dominic try to get Rey to hit him. But Rey hesitated. And honestly, I'm so over this Dominic-Rey Mysterio feud. Let's just have the match and get this over with. Because they've been feuding for a while now. I mean, Rey Mysterio went to SmackDown so he could get away from Dominic. Clearly, that didn't work because he's still showing up on SmackDown. Personally, in my opinion, Dominic needs to get hit with the chancla. Everybody knows, especially in the Latino community, if you talk to your parent the way Dom was talking to Rey, you would not live another day. So I know that's probably the plan. Rey Mysterio versus Dominic at WrestleMania. We have 5 weeks left of this. This feud needs to end. When you think about it, that technically was the main event because that was the last match. So to close off SmackDown, we have Jimmy Uso. He comes up to the ring. He says that if Jay is not there, he knows that Jay is watching. From brother to brother, he knows Jay is torn and that Jay is hurting. When Jay hurts, he hurts too, and he will always be there for Jay. He talks about how people are talking about there's cracks in the bloodline and that they have a Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens problem. He also knows that Jay has issues with Roman Reigns, and Jimmy cannot do this alone. Sami Zayn comes out with his hood, and he says that he's not here to fight. He just wants to talk to Jay. But he also wants to talk to Jimmy. He tells Jimmy that it breaks his heart to hear Jimmy say brother, because that's what he considered Jimmy. They were dogs. He said Jimmy was the one who made Sami Zayn an honorary Uso. Jimmy always had Sami Zayn's back when Jay didn't. But yet, when things went south, Jimmy didn't even think twice since he turned on Sami Zayn without hesitation. Jimmy calls Sami Zayn selfish and cannot believe that Sami has the audacity to make him think it was his fault when Sami Zayn was the one who made the choice. He's the one who pulled the trigger. What was he supposed to do? Sami Zayn says, family doesn't make you test your loyalty or make you jump through hoops. Then all of a sudden, like, you see Jay standing in the middle of the crowd, like he's on the stairs. Sami Zayn says the blood is not about Roman. He goes on to say he will make sure the Roman Reigns and the bloodline come crumbling down. He tells Jimmy that he doesn't have to go down with the ship just like he told Jay. Jimmy attacks Sami Zayn, and Jay slowly makes his way down. And Sami Zayn ends up hitting Jimmy with the haluva kick. And then Sami Zayn quickly exits the ring because Solo Sikoa comes out. And then if you look at Jay, he kind of looked like he was upset that Sami Zayn attacked Jimmy. So it seems like the blow-off is going to happen next week when Roman Reigns is there. I mean, there's 5 weeks left to WrestleMania. You have to get Jay back with Jimmy. You have to make us hate Jay Uso. You have to take the heat off of Roman and transfer it to Jay, because if the plan is to do Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Usos, you have to do it. There's 5 weeks left to go for WrestleMania. And that is how SmackDown closed tonight. So overall, I thought SmackDown was pretty lackluster. Aside from the Bloodline segment, there really wasn't much that caught my attention. I was not happy about LA Knight losing to Kofi Kingston. Rey Mysterio versus Karrion Kross was okay, but really, Santos Escobar was not out there. You would have thought that from that segment earlier in the night that Santos Escobar said he's going to teach Dominic to respect his dad. He would have been out there with Rey Mysterio. He would have beat down Dominic, and maybe next week we could have had Dominic versus Santos Escobar, but that didn't happen. So what was the whole point of that interaction? No, honestly, I'm going to be generous and give it a 5 out of 10. Just the 6-man tag match wasn't too bad. But aside from that, I don't know what's going on with this SmackDown. We're on the road to WrestleMania. 5 weeks left to go. And this SmackDown is supposed to build towards WrestleMania. I didn't like it. Not one bit. Actually liked Rampage a lot better than I did SmackDown tonight. Surprise, surprise. But with that being said, you guys, that concludes this review. Thank you guys all so much for watching and for your continued support. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified whenever I go live or release a new video. And I'll see you guys Monday, hopefully live after Raw. Bye.